Hello. Welcome to Season 8 of The Horrific Podcast. We're two friends who live in different places but share a love for scary movies. In each episode, we both watch the same movie on our own and then record a conversation together about what we liked, what we hated, if we were scared, and maybe even some larger truths about why people watch horror movies in the first place. This season, our theme is Make the Wives Pick. Since our wives have to watch these movies with us every week, and often complain about it, we made them pick the movies this season. If you want to see the list of upcoming films and follow along, check out our website at thehorrific.com. Thanks for listening. I have two confessions to make.
Okay.
Number one is I 1000% forgot we were recording today.
Oh.
And I woke up early this morning and I was just kind of laying here in bed and I thought, man, what do I got to do today? I thought, oh, it's Sunday. Are we recording? And I was like, yeah. Oh, yeah, and we were going to do 2 episodes. And I haven't watched the second movie yet. So I just jumped out of bed and ran downstairs.
Yeah. So last night yesterday was Halloween for everyone that was listening. And Daniel, you were messaging me like videos and stuff that you were doing. I was like frantically watching Jeepers Creepers 2 because I hadn't watched it yet. And I was like, he's going to think I'm a terrible co-host that I waited. But now I know that you waited, so I don't feel bad at all.
I'm the terrible co-host.
No.
What a twist.
Because you're still 10 times more prepared than I am.
But yeah, no, so I finished watching this movie roughly an hour ago. So
well, that's
it's
the luck of
fresh.
the podcast because it's time change. So
yeah, exactly. The only reason I was awake early enough to do it was time change.
The only time I sleep in late on weekends, for the record, the only time is if we have a podcast on Sundays. Otherwise, like I'm up 7, 8 o'clock just because I want to get the weekend. Like I want to have as much weekend as possible.
Right.
And if so, it's like I'm waking up at like 9:45 and we got to record at 10. Today it was the same thing. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, it's 8:45.
Yeah.
Oh, this is great. I got time to
go back to bed.
Yeah. Yeah. I got up and I feel great. So.
Yeah. So my second confession is that I had started because spoiler warning, did not love this movie. I had started writing this like real think PC monologue about how this movie was a total ripoff of Friday Night Lights and how basically they had tried to inject something that was popular in culture, which is like the inner drama of a small town football team into a horror movie, and that was a terrible idea and it didn't work. And then I realized that this came out like 3 years before the Friday Night Lights series. So I just deleted all that.
And I think it was a basketball team.
This was supposed to be a basketball team?
Yeah.
I thought it was football.
Oh, no, trust me. I thought the same thing. And I think I read that in a fact or something. But because the thing was, what happened was I literally wrote, they're trying to convince us that this is a football team and there's no big linemen here.
Well, yeah, no.
I was like, this is the smallest.
I had with,
but then it made sense because I was like, oh, 5 people on the court. That actually adds up.
Yeah. I don't know. That's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Jeepers Creepers 2.
Yeah. Where we are going to counter everything I said about making a simple film.
Yeah, right. Yeah, this was very, very different than the first one. Had you seen this one before?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had not.
Yep.
And so I did not know what to expect. And after watching the first one and being like pleasantly surprised by how well it held up, I was very optimistic going into this one. And it took all of, I don't know, 3 scene changes to convince me that was a bad idea.
Convince you otherwise.
Well, then I will do my intro, you can do your fun facts, and then we will proceed to dissect this movie.
Sounds good.
In 2003, MGM Distribution Company brought us Jeepers Creepers 2, a sequel to the 2001 release that we covered in last week's episode. Part 2 picks up pretty quickly after where Part 1 left off. The same evil creature takes a child from a farm and then spends the last day of its feeding period terrorizing a bus full of high school football players, except not, who are returning from winning a big game. The kids want to survive while the father of the child who was taken wants revenge. This movie was made on a budget of $17 million and made about $63 million at the box office. It can currently be streamed on HBO Max.
Perfect. So in this film, you hear on the radio towards the beginning talking about 4 days earlier the church burning. So this takes place 4 days after the first movie, which I think works out.
I liked that.
Yeah, there's a nice way to tie in. Now in this film, also originally Trish and Giselle from Jeepers Creepers 1 were supposed to be the ones who hunt the creeper.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I've read a couple different reasons why not. So we'll just say like two of them. Basically, one was like one of the actresses, Trish or Giselle, one of them decided not to sign on to do the film, which is why. And then the other was they were talking
about good career choice.
yeah. And then the other one said that Victor Salva was just like, as he was getting into writing it, like he liked the idea of, the dad and brother doing it. But they were saying initially, like the dad was supposed to it was just supposed to be almost like, not a cameo, but just like a small appearance in the film.
Yeah. But then they got towards the end and realized they didn't have a resolution for...
Yeah.
So they had to bring him in.
Right. And so it was Gina Phillips who turned down the role, which played Trish. So, as you were kind of saying, pretty smart career move. And then also, the only time you hear the song Jeepers Creepers played is at the end, I guess, in a cutscene, which we didn't.
Yeah, we didn't
see either, but that was the facts.
So the thing I moved to the top of my notes before we started recording wasn't the song Jeepers Creepers supposed to matter in this series?
Right. It's like they kind of just decided not to do it, even though it was the same writer and director as the first one.
And it played like every 10 minutes in the first movie.
Yeah.
And there was supposed to be some connection between it and the monster. And he was also posted up out of like that abandoned power plant or whatever it was with the record player. And so you just kind of thought that was going to be like his new lair, where he had the old phonograph. So that didn't make it into this movie at all.
Yeah, not entirely sure why not. Also, yeah. I don't know why Giselle couldn't have been involved somehow.
Yeah.
But
well, yeah, and the whole wings thing. Like, he just flew everywhere this time. There was never any, like, car chase or him driving a truck, which goes back to the question we had last time around, like, why did he get the wings all of a sudden at one point?
Yeah.
And when the truck had been such an important part of him previously. So, I don't know. There were some things from a narrative perspective that didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
But
they tried... they also tried to make, like, I felt like they tried to give you a little bit better of an understanding of why the monster's there, and the creeper, whatever you want to call him, as in,
JC in my notes.
That's nice. As in, like, every 23rd spring for 23 days, it gets to eat, basically, is what they say. Why, I don't know, but they at least try, I think, to explain why he's there. And the whole idea, from my understanding about this movie, from what Victor was saying, is that it started with that idea, like, how long does he get to eat? Well, it's 23 days, or every 23 years for 23 days he gets to eat. So, that's what he wrote this story around, and then kind of filled in the places after he thought of the idea of doing a school bus for the kids.
So he read it and was like, I could do that too.
Basically. Yeah.
I did rewatch the 2017 It last night.
Yeah. First and second
Halloween.
part?
No, just first part.
First part?
Yeah. Makes me happy every time.
Oh, yeah, dude.
But yeah, this movie, not so much. And I thought we were off to a good start with the opening scene, where you see the kid is out there helping on the farm and they're setting up the scarecrows. and the dad is like operating the machinery, and then the kid is like doing the other steps or something. But when that scarecrow moves its head slightly in the background and the birds start to fly off and the kid looks over and like you make the connection that that's the monster, that was cool. Yeah. And I think, or it felt to me, you know, having watched them relatively close together, that like the director saw that scene in the first movie where he's standing in front of the cross in the cat lady's house. And he was like, oh, that's cool. I could do more with that.
Right.
and then, you know, wrote that in for this one, which I thought was kind of cool. And it was also like a nice nod back to something from the first movie. And so in the beginning, I thought they did a good job of sort of like setting it in the same universe and like the same time period and everything between that and the radio report that you mentioned.
Yeah. I think what they did in this movie is kind of like what Nightmare on Elm Street did, where they made, like Freddy Krueger, like more as a character. So like for example, you know, Freddy would do his, you know, outlandish sayings or whatever, you know, he was doing kind of a comical character. Yeah. No, with this one, it was almost like you see like the creepers like playing around, like being the scarecrow and, you know, picking out the kids that he is going to take in the bus. Super, super awkward, but they tried to, I feel like they tried to make it like it was almost too comical, I guess is what I'm saying. Yeah,
they were trying, it felt to me like they were trying to make him more of like kind of a wise ass, like, Freddy Krueger or like Chucky, you know, like that dark humor or something, but it didn't really work as much for me. And I feel like we didn't really see much more. We didn't really learn much more about him. Like you come into this one and they just tell you like, yeah, every 23 years for 23 days, but it wasn't like he gained any new powers. It wasn't like you learned some new secret to, you know, how they could stop him forever or anything. He was just kind of him the whole way through.
Yeah.
And they set up some cool scenes with it. Like when that girl shoves I guess it's a javelin or something through the roof of the bus and it goes through his head and his eye is stuck on it.
Yeah.
Up in the air. And then he pulls it out and like knocks part of his head off. So then he steals the head from one of the kids and
just be like, I'm back.
Puts it on. Yeah. So like, but all of that, it was him doing things that you already knew he could do.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like you were finding out like more stuff that made him scarier, I guess.
Yeah.
Whereas in the first movie, I thought you did have that. Like over time, it was very unpredictable because you didn't know what he was capable of or what he could do or become.
Yeah, and I think that they, in doing that, I think it made it where like it made a little bit more sense to us because we literally just watched Jeepers Creepers.
Yeah.
Now is it something that you could, you know, watch, you know, 2 years, 3 years later after watching Jeepers Creepers and it makes sense?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe not. You know, I mean, who knows? But yeah, it was overall, I think, a little frustrating with this one because, like I was saying with the last one, where like it's okay to not have that full story, you know, and just learn these things as you go. With this one, it's like there was beef between the basketball players that didn't necessarily make sense. They were trying to make it kind of racially, and it's just like, it's like, I get like the importance of this thing, but the beauty of the first one is that you didn't have to worry about that. Like it was just like, let's just, you know, try to scare the hell out of these viewers. And this one was more, I think, trying to be an action film, you know, mystery, like Twilight Zone episode where like they're trying to guess who the bad guy is and everyone turns on everyone. It's just,
it didn't make sense to me. Like it was trying to be like hip and edgy for teenagers.
Right.
And it's like, well, in 2003, what's hip and edgy is like, well, we have a character that might be gay and we have a character that's probably a racist.
Yeah.
And I just to me, that feels so lightweight compared to where life is right now. Like, like it's not edgy. It's not like hip. Like, yeah, like, I don't know. Like I don't know. It's frustrating to me. And because of the way that it was done, And it was like it was added in a way that didn't impact or complement the story at all. And it didn't really even make a statement about anything. It was just trying to like throw some stuff out there. And like an actual line from this movie was, maybe I just have the wrong skin color to play on this team.
Right, said a white basketball player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who I thought was a white football player.
Right.
But still.
Yeah.
Just like, what?
Yeah.
What does that have to do with anything?
Right.
And there was also the subplot about Izzy, who I guess was like a school reporter. And the guys are off like peeing in the field while the bus is broken down. And one of the other guys is telling him, like, I know you got those scars. Heard it was from when you got in a fight when you snuck into a bar, a gay bar. And I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
Like, how often do you hear about like a knifing at a gay bar?
Right.
You know, like.
Well, and then also it's just like, why is
stupid.
that? Yeah. Yeah. Well.
But then again, that is yet another like thing that never went anywhere. It was like they had to point out that the other students are accusing this character of being gay, and he's not directly responding to it. The end. That's the end of that storyline. That's all there was to it. And so it felt like a bunch of like teenage drama injected into a horror movie. And I feel like it, and as much as I talked about liking the pace of part one, pace killed me in part two.
Yeah.
It just, even scenes where stuff was going on, it feels like they found ways to make them take too long and be distractingly like weird.
Yeah.
There's a scene where I call him Farm Dad. I can't remember his real name, but he's on the truck and the creature has like the other end of the rope from the harpoon he shot at him. And he's like yelling about how the rope is connected to the spool and the spool is connected to the cradle and the cradle sits on the something else that's welded to the frame of the truck. So the creature is going to rip the gun off of the truck. And then he jumps off the truck, and then the creature rips the gun off the truck.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Now,
It didn't need the full explanation.
Right.
It just jumped, and yeah.
I will say that I think one of the redeeming factors of this film was when the creeper is interacting with the kids initially in the bus, and you see him like look through like the glass and like kind of picking out who he's gonna get.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty creepy. I mean, it's at nighttime. It's dark background. He's a super dark character, and you see his eyes just kind of looking, and like he's sniffing, and then kind of looks down to see one of them that he wants. And then it gets kind of comical with like picking out who he's gonna get.
Yeah.
You know?
He like winks and stuff.
Yeah, smiles and winks and all that, and it's just, you know, okay, whatever. But initially, though, before it gets to that, I thought it was like pretty terrifying to put yourself in those shoes, middle of nowhere, and taking a highway that, you know, no car is on, or if they are, you know, it's like two, and they, you know, obviously end up crash later throughout the film. But I don't know,
I mean, I thought that overall it had some good individual scenes, but just stitched together as a movie was not nearly as like compelling or enrapturing as the first one.
Yeah.
And it was kind of weird to me too, and it may just be my TV and like the way that movies are digitized and the way that all that works together. But I thought the sound mix on this one was just like exceptionally bad. It felt like the music and the sound effects and the dialogue all were set really weirdly, like in relation to each other. Like there's one scene where the truck, the farm dad's truck, is like behind the bus, and it's kind of like being pulled with that rope, and there was like this squeaking sound that was way louder than like the music or any of the background stuff or the dialogue.
Yeah.
And it just like really stuck out in like an awkward way. And then when he was stabbing the monster repeatedly at the end, I swear that the sound it made every time the thing was hitting, it was like like an 808 like snare hit clap.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, it gets to a point where you're just like, you can only say the same thing over and over so much. Like when Jack Jr., which is the name of the dad, Jack Taggart Sr., he is telling Jack Jr. to like get away from the bus. Get away from the bus. Like, he said it like 3,000 times.
Yeah.
So much so that you're just like, okay, like, we get it.
Yeah.
Like, get away from the damn bus, you know,
Yeah.
whatever.
But that's what, I mean, it felt like almost every scene just had twice as much dialogue as it needed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that was frustrating to me, but I don't know. And then there was the whole thing with the girl that was having like the psychic dreams. And I thought it was cool that they brought back sort of the psychic element, because it's like the creature exists not only in our physical world. It seems like there's some like larger, like spiritual or supernatural component to it. And I think that that's important for like establishing what it is. But why did this random college or teenage girl suddenly become psychic?
Yeah.
And everybody was just like kind of cool with it.
Yeah. There's like,
know
yeah,
what I mean?
we get it.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, no, she's not known for this. This is just a thing that started happening. And she's like, oh yeah, I saw a dead boy on the side of the road and he told me these things. And everyone's just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And she is just like, oh yeah, that happens. What?
Yeah. No, this is normal.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
But that, something I forgot to mention last time, it was funny to me in the first movie where the day after a bunch of stuff had gone down, they're in the police station. I think it's after Derry disappeared, the sister and the psychic are in the police station, and the cops are still just like booking people like normal.
Yeah.
Just have like a normal day after this like giant monster destroyed half their facility the night before.
It's like, give people a break, man.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, just the idea of there being things that people don't react to.
Yeah.
I felt a similar thing about the girl's psychic powers, I guess.
Yeah.
What'd you think of the way they ended it?
So the thing about the creeper that I thought is kind of interesting is that you could actually like damage him and see the damage that, you know, is happening. It was almost like a battle because, yeah, he was like out in the middle of nowhere and these were kind of like his only options. But I think it just tried to make it too much of an action pack. Like I definitely didn't mind like the scene where the kid at the end who got flipped from the back of the truck is like crawling away from the creeper who also is damaged and like kind of jumping towards the kid. Yeah. I definitely didn't mind that. And then, the dad came in and, saved the day with a harpoon through the head. Definitely interesting. Mm-hmm. There's definitely no killing this guy. Although you can damage him. I would think though, realistically, like if you just cut his head off, it'd probably be okay, but for some reason they didn't do that. But also in the same breath, like I was just kind of thankful it was done. I mean, it was like, oh, that's like, it was an intense scene where the creeper was on top of the kid who had his hand on the creeper's throat and like he was fighting him off for all his might. Like that's super intense, but it was just like, once it was done, it was like, okay, we get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I definitely wanted that kid to survive, but at the same time, I felt like this had so many characters that I had a hard time like distinguishing them from each other.
100%, yeah.
And so I didn't have any like specific connection to any of them.
Yeah.
And we talked about in the first one, you just kind of have the two and you want them both to survive because you're set up to make you want them both to survive by the movie. Whereas this one, they were all over the place. They were all fighting with each other the whole time. And you didn't really have like a good feel of who was who other than just that Scotty was kind of a jerk by the end of it.
Yeah.
But everybody else was just sort of like generic basket football player number 1 through 5. And okay, yeah, so one of them is almost going to get away, but I didn't feel any like specific reason for wanting him to survive more so than anybody else.
Yeah, same. Like there's no person in this that was just like that you were kind of voting for, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, well, I did like the bus driver.
Well, that's true. Bus driver Betty.
Yeah. But she didn't last too long.
You know what I thought was kind of funny about that, though, is one of the facts that I was reading was talking about how they were initially trying to get Meatloaf to play the character of the bus driver. And I thought to myself, oh, that's funny, because it would have been around the time that he was, acting. But my thought was like, bus driver Betty Borman, or, the bus driver character, Diane, who played that character, may have asked, like, oh, who else tried to get this position? And they're like, Meatloaf. We got the best replacement we could.
Yeah.
And she's like, what the? I don't look like Meatloaf. But, yeah.
They would have been obligated to use Bat Out of Hell.
Yeah.
All of it, yeah.
Yeah. Seriously.
That's funny. So then after that sort of climax scene where the dad saves the day with his harpoon gun and then stabs the creature a bunch of times, it like flashes forward 23 years into the future, and his son that survived is running like a roadside attraction to come pay $5 to see the bat creature. Yeah. And they have the creature just kind of hung up on the wall in the barn, and the dad is sitting there next to it with his harpoon gun pointed at it, saying that he's waiting a few more days, for it to wake up, presumably so he can try to kill it again.
Yeah.
Which was like, okay.
It's like give or take a day or two.
Yeah. Couldn't it just set the thing on fire or something?
Right, yeah. Or cut the head off,
yeah.
like we've kind of talked about. But, yeah, whereas the first one, like, I feel like we got a pass, because of some of the things they were doing, smaller cast. And this one, they just, like, we're just like, screw it. We're just going to take the terrible influences, here and try to make it our own teenage drama.
Yeah. Yeah, I really, again, I mean, the thing that comes back to me summing this up is just the pacing of it. Yeah. It never sustained the horror feeling, and it moved too slow and got off track with all these like storylines that didn't end up mattering.
Right.
And so it just felt like it worked against itself a lot as far as like pulling you into a horror experience.
Well, this is something that we've kind of talked about in the past, but like if you're going to make a film with, I don't want to say like childish like ideas, but something that's, I feel like more geared towards, the teenage crowd. Mm-hmm. Like don't make it a rated R that will stop.
Right.
It's not going to stop kids from seeing it in theaters, but it'll stop a lot, and it's just like, so you like your viewers that you wanted to have watch, like you just isolated, 90% of them.
Yeah.
And now you're going to have two guys in their 30s doing their podcast on it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course it doesn't make sense, man. Yeah. Like, whereas the first one, like, you really, like, they did so good on creating this new character and doing all this. Yeah. And on this one, they just kind of shit it away, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that it is telling that the first one was made on just slightly more than half the budget of this one and made almost as much in the box office.
See, that's what blows my mind. It just blows my mind that it's just like, how is that a thing? Like, you have more budget. Like, it's just, it comes down to the storyline. Mm-hmm. Where's the guy that's like, goes up to Victor and is like, hey man, that first one, really legit.
Yeah.
Like, I get that you can't do the same story of like, cross country thing, but like, you can still come up with something better than a group of maybe football, maybe basketball players going across town or state or whatever. I don't know. It's just, yeah, kind of frustrating. But at least we got Jeepers Creepers out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. very happy with the first one. There is a third one that came out recently. I think it was like 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know anything about it. I don't know if it's like a true sequel or if it's a remake of the original or what. But after watching this one, I'm not super motivated to check it out. And it's also not on HBO Max. So I would have to probably pay for it, which I am extra not motivated to do right now.
Right. It's not rated and has 3.9 on IMDb. So
okay. So about exactly what you'd expect.
Yeah. But, oh well. Hey, we got one good one out of it.
Yeah.
Whose pick was this? Was this my wife or your wife?
Sarah did not know Jeepers Creepers 2 was on the list, so it had to have been Katie.
God dang it, Katie.
Yeah.
Wait, did she do one, though?
I don't know.
Damn.
Yeah, I was thinking they were both on Katie's list, but I could be wrong on that. So, I just, it did not. Generally, I feel like Sarah probably would have been into Justin Long at about the time that this came out.
Yeah.
But it was not on her radar. So, what are we doing next week? Oh, The Grudge.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
The American version?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah. Cool. Well, we will be back next time with The Grudge, and I think we will both be generally happier with it.
I think so, too. I agree.
And that's it for today's episode. If you've listened this far, then thank you, and we hope you've enjoyed it. We're always looking for new ideas, so if you have any questions, comments, or movie suggestions, please send us an email at thehorrificpod@gmail.com, or feel free to comment on or message our Facebook page. Just search for The Horrific Podcast. Thanks for listening.